Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Money in the Law on My FM 101.3 and the Holliston Hub with your host. He is Jay Marsden from the Marsden Law Group.
Right here.
I'm John Drohan from Main Effort Financial. Tom Harmon is the executive producer of Money in the Law at the Holliston Hub. And we're here with you on Saturday.
Here with you.
Talking about money and talking about the law, like we do almost every Saturday.
My two favorite things.
Yep. Two favorite things, money and the law. And the third thing, maybe a close third, is just this show, because I get to talk about it. And, maybe all those could be interchangeable. Maybe one could, kind of outshine the other someday.
Cigars and whiskey, put that in there, right?
Cigars and whiskey, a good shot in golf, right?
Yeah.
On the green.
A great round.
On the green in two.
Yeah.
The
club doing what it's supposed to do.
The club doing what it's supposed to do. I don't know, maybe being in the right place at the right time. Hey, you know what? We're here. Hey, all of us are here together, right? All four of us are here together, and or in my case, all five of us are here together. I'm like, wow, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, when the crew comes together, yes.
And it just happens, and then it hits you, it's like, wow, we're all here together. We're all yucking it up and having a good time, and you're like, This used to happen every day.
Well, you're probably, if you're told by close friends and family that, enjoy this, right? Because this isn't going to happen. And you're like, come on, what are you talking? Of course, being together with my family happens every single day for the rest of my life.
Well, you know it, right? You know it in your brain.
Yeah.
You know that it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But you don't go there. It's like, I don't need to deal with that issue right now. I don't need to take that target. That's a 200-meter target.
Yep.
I shoot 50-meter targets. That's all I do. Yeah.
Yep. And then all of a sudden you wake up one day and you're like, getting everybody back together is proving to be a challenge.
Yeah.
And then that just becomes
it's work.
Yeah, it is
work, and it's expensive. It's like, I can't afford it. Like, well, okay, we'll pay for you, right?
Well, that's if you want to go somewhere. That's even different. I'm just talking about, if you get them at the house, that's one thing. You want to put everybody on a flight and try to do the family vacation that you used to do, and that it was literally just like corralling, puppies in a box, just get them in the car and out the door you went. Not anymore.
Well, what about, so both of us have kids in the greater New York area, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, you know what? It's a pain to drive. You don't really want to drive, so let's figure out the train. And because you wait until, 2 days before, you're like, wow, this train ticket's expensive, as opposed to if I did it 2 months ago.
Yeah, they're giving them away. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And so you're right. So it's that kind of opportunity. That's in the top 5, top 3.
Yep.
Maybe even,
I'll give you that.
Yep. But you know what? Right here. Again, how many times have you heard it? Be in the moment. Right here, we're in this moment.
You're here with your Money in the Law family right now.
I'm here with my Money in the Law family.
There you go.
And so...
as usual, you were late for dinner, as usual.
Which I will tell you why right now.
Please do. I can't believe it. Yep.
So as...
Does it involve a burning car, children, anything like that, or no?
It involves a 10 by 10 foot hole in the front of the building. So just as a little bit of a promotional kind of teaser. So as some of you may know, there is an establishment that's going in just coincidentally in the same place where my office is. So it's a coincidence. Am I excited about it? I guess, because this establishment, what they do is they do one thing. Actually, they do two things. But the one thing that they really do is they have these little handles, and if you pull the handle towards yourself, and then there's this little metal thing that's connected to the handle, and you pull the handle towards yourself, and what happens is
it dispenses beer?
Beer comes out of that handle and goes into whatever the container is.
That alone. I get goosebumps just hearing that story.
Right? Well, that's just that's the basics. Right?
And as the landlord, you probably have keys.
I don't.
It's a different conversation.
Again, and that's a different conversation. But all I know is that however the situation is, I go to work. And upstairs and downstairs, and it doesn't open until the end of the workday.
Right.
At the end of the workday, I can truly walk down 11 stairs, and then I can go into that door, and that's where that handle thing with the beer thing is.
And correct me if I'm wrong, somewhat fresh beer too. Not like, do you want one that's been sitting in my fridge since Christmas? Right?
No, it hasn't been sitting out since yesterday.
That nobody else wanted, and so I'm offering it to you, right? Which is what happens when you come to my office.
It's not that pumpkin crap.
That's
nope,
right.
It is.
That's right.
This isn't Halloween beer. No, this is beer that was made relatively soon. And And here's the next best thing. I don't know if you remember this, but do you know that where you go to work, where your office is,
Yes.
is actually maybe 100 meters down the street?
You know, it's funny. Every once in a while, I've walked out of the, which probably do a lot more of, but I've walked out of my office and I've thought to myself, I should walk down and see what John's up to right now.
You should just go.
I should just roll down there, and now
Anytime.
I'm very much incentivized, or soon will be very much incentivized to do that.
So you go down and say, I wonder what John's up to, but then you don't go, and then you don't know what I'm up to. I'm guessing that you're going to actually go down and say to yourself, I'm going to go see what John's up to. You're going to walk down. You're going to walk into the bar. John happens to be upstairs working.
Yeah.
So you're still not going to know what I'm up to.
I'll probably text you from downstairs. I mean, I wasn't raised by wolves. I mean, I might text you and say,
just so you know.
If you don't know this, but I'm a 2x6 right below you right now. And if you want to come down and talk about some show ideas, I mean, I think folks who have been listening to the show a long time, you're going to see an exponential increase in preparedness. And and like topical discussions are probably going to go through the roof.
Sure, like we're having that conversation. Okay, I'm gonna have to cut you off right here. Right back, same time tomorrow, right?
Yep.
Tomorrow is Tuesday.
Yep.
Same time
You know
tomorrow.
what? Baby steps. We fleshed out a good portion of this. Let's kind of close this out tomorrow.
We'll
with
wrap
another
the
meeting.
whiteboard. We'll leave the whiteboard right where it is.
6 meetings leading up to the show, right? Or maybe like 3 and then 3, or 3 and 2. Makes perfect sense.
So this is part of the why I was there. There is some issues and some construction. A lot of like digging that's going on.
I drove around it yesterday.
And one of the reason was that was kind of this big deal is they have a fire. The code requires a fire suppression system.
Oh yeah.
So that they have to connect to the town, and I was talking to the excavating contractor. And he was talking about, he goes, yeah, we dug this hole right here. And the town gave us literally like a piece of loose leaf paper with a red dot on it. We dug this up. We found gas pipes, sewer pipe, or not sewer pipes, like drain pipes, all of this stuff that like nobody knew this. So he was like, there was a couple issues that we had to deal with. And, there was all kind of the ripple effect of that, everybody that was kind of in the building. So I was trying to put out some fire, and I have to say that
I get it. See that? See what he did there?
Yeah.
Put out some fires as they're putting in the fire suppression system. That's great gold,
good,
baby.
It's
radio
right.
gold.
So I have to say that the other people in the building have been really good sports. As with construction projects, they never go as they're first drawn out, and there's always going to be issues, and then there's weather, and there's all the other stuff that goes. So I have to really. I'm very grateful that everybody's been able to kind of work together. We've had some tough days, but in the end, I think it'll be
good.
I think it'll
Good
be
to hear.
be all
That's
worth.
great.
Yeah,
that's great.
So, how are you?
So doing after that, right there, I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine.
You're
doing better
good.
than you. Better than you.
No. I mean, I'm not complaining.
I know.
I'm not complaining.
No, it's all good. All good.
We have the summer is kind of upon us, or getting ready.
Tommy and I were just talking about that. So for those of you who have heard, you probably read all the announcements online and saw the skywriting in the over your town. So we do have our Cape Cod offices up and running. I was there on Friday, right in Hyannis on Independence Drive, and we're open for business. We're seeing clients down there. We're doing meetings down there. We're doing doc signings down there. And we're just kind of operating off of that and expanding our footprint on Cape Cod.
There's not a retirement community down there. People don't usually go down there, kind of in there.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, we just think geographically it works out for us. We didn't do any real demographic analysis, but we feel like it's a good spot for us.
Yeah.
And forcing us to be down there anyway.
Right? Yeah.
We'll take a flyer on it. We'll see what happens. But no, we're very excited. There's the space that we have our office in has a great setup for workshops and things like that. So we feel like it's a really good location for us to kind of do what we want to do, and it's also a phenomenal opportunity for us to kind of introduce ourselves to the entire community down there that supports the work that we do. I mean, there's a lot of prospective clients down there that have talked about getting estate planning done, and just kind of we're looking for the right time and the right relationship to start that with. And then there's a ton of people down there that are in the real estate business. There's a ton of financial services folks. There's a ton of people in kind of the home care or the assisted living, other alternative space down there. And we're just down there, just introducing ourselves to people and telling our story and hoping that we make some connections. And actually, it's funny. I was telling Lauren last week. I said, look, this is exactly how our Holliston office originally operated. Right. I mean, when you and I have talked on the show before. When I started the law firm, I started the law firm on a card table.
Yeah.
With a okay but not that great laptop that didn't do probably 80% of what I needed it
Right,
to do.
because you wouldn't power up and get anything new at that point.
No,
this one works fine.
I was bootstrapping
This
the
one
entire
works
thing.
fine, yeah.
And the cell phone, and that was it. Those are the three pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, and in your home office, right?
My home office,
We're
which was
working at-
actually the kids' playroom,
Yeah.
as you can well attest to.
Yeah.
So that I said to Lauren, we're obviously working with a lot more resources at this stage of the game as we kind of move into this new Cape Cod space. But there's still a lot of it that happens. It's almost like you're starting from scratch.
Well, the thing is, and we've talked about too, like, wouldn't it be great to have a space down there? Because my mom is down in Cape Cod, so it would be great to have like this, and the good thing is that you're down there so much, right? And you want, and particularly in the warm weather, you want to go down there. You want to be, and it's easy enough to get to, right?
Yeah.
So it almost like it's almost like a good excuse to kind of bring you down there.
Yeah.
You can work, and then because how many times have you worked from home, from the Cape House, right? You've kind of worked from there, and you're like, well, I'm here, I'm working, but I'm not, it's different, right? It's different than
that's right.
kind of going to work and kind of, all right, I'm here, I'm going to work, and then like you said, you have this space, right? You have this space, so if we need to meet people, we're going to have, several people come in, or if we want to say, hey, we're going to do a little bit of a just 101 on how to do kind of your fundamental basic estate plan.
Yeah.
All that stuff can work, and again, it's just a good reason to go down there.
Yeah, it's a great reason.
I'm going to work.
It's a great reason, but the Cape, because it's so sort of geographically unique. People on the Cape kind of vibe with other people from the Cape, right?
Sure.
Like everybody, it's a very supportive business community. That's what I'm discovering. The more and more we kind of peel back layers of this onion. Very, very supportive business community. Very supportive community of everybody's objectives and what everybody's trying to do. So like I said, we've talked about, and everyone's on the Cape, and everyone's in a great, they're on the Cape. Everyone's in a great mood, and everyone kind of just loves going to work every day because the weather's nice, and you're always looking at the scenery is lights out, so you're always passing a harbor and a sailboat and a beach and all this other stuff. So it's been exciting. And
you're not gonna. People aren't going. The people go down for like a week or two for vacation. They're probably not going to do their estate plan.
No, and we, by the way, and we know that. Like not only do we know that,
you're not handing out business cards on the beach. Like, yeah, how you doing, Jay Marsden? Listen, you have the zinc oxide on your nose.
When you
right?
roll up to get in the beach, and I'm the guy who's ripping the tag off, and the tag also comes with the Marsden Law card. Welcome, Jersey.
You're checking beach stickers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here you go. Here's your beach tag, and then here's a Marsden Law.
I know everything about New Jersey.
Yep.
I know estate planning in New Jersey.
But we've talked about that, and we said, look, there's obviously a component to that. So we get it, right? But there's a lot. It's for us. It's about exposure, and it's the right thing to do.
It's the presence, right?
It's the right thing to do.
It's the presence, and you're the kind of you are the kind of person, and your firm is the kind of firm where it's all about relationships.
Yes.
Like, what? Because believe it or not, there's other estate planning attorneys
Yes.
in the world. There's other estate planning attorneys in Cape Cod.
We
right?
know you have options when you're choosing your estate planning firm, and we at Marsden Law appreciate it when you choose us. We get it. We understand you have lots of options.
And that's it. And it's based on the relationship. It's based on that the ability for you to kind of understand what the objective that they want to take, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same time they understand that you understand, and they know that you can frame things up, you can explain things for them, you can make them understand, and it's all about that. Because at the end of the day, how many times we said it, right? Like, your job, my job is to make people happy.
Yep.
The money piece, the way your estate plays out. At the end of the day, it's going to happen. Yeah. It's going to happen, and if with good luck and some good planning and some fortune, you're going to be able to. It'll happen the way you want it to.
Yeah.
But just and all that is just so you sleep better at night, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually, we're going to shuffle off the mortal coil and do something else, right? But in the meantime, that's one less thing to worry about. I've worked really hard for all of this, and I want to make sure that in all of the contingencies that I can think of at this time, I've got those figured out. I've got a plan.
We are constantly telling clients we are putting tools in a toolbox. Yeah. We constantly use that reference, right?
That's a great reference, because I don't even know if Jay owns a toolbox.
I get like 10 of them.
You get 10 toolboxes.
Like 10 toolboxes, yeah.
but there's tools.
There's tools in them.
There's tools in
Yes. You do know I did that for a living for a while. You know that, right?
I haven't seen. I want to see some.
All right.
I want to see. You know what I want to see?
Yeah.
I want to see some work. I want to see some.
All
work.
right.
Bring
All
in
right.
some pictures.
Bring in some pictures.
But I want to
Okay.
see. I want to see the
We
results.
get some Polaroids from
Can
back
you do?
in 19,
I mean, can you do crown molding? Can you do
yes,
that?
Yes,
you can do
yes,
crown.
Yes, chop saw right. Chop saw right here. Yes. Yes,
Really?
Yes. I'm not doing your
You are
crown
such
molding,
a
but yes,
bad one.
yes.
I mean, I do my own.
Yeah.
And I do my own, and then if there's an actual contractor that comes in and goes, all right, we can redo that for you too.
We did this. We did this.
Yeah, no, never mind. I know who did. I know who didn't do it.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah. Who was wearing a blindfold when they put all your crown molding up? Was somebody lose a bet in here? So, all right, what's on your mind? What do you want to talk about today?
So I want to talk about, kind of in spirit of kind of this whole thing about about relationship building, right?
Yep.
And relationship building, but kind of to be able to understand some of like the more specific things, like some of the more like maybe unique things in both estate planning and in financial planning.
Sure.
And kind of how that relationship, it's a little touchy-feely, but it's important. But how that relationship is that trust that you develop between the client and the service provider, and then their ability to be able to translate kind of everything that you need to know, because that's what I spend a lot of my time on, right?
Yeah.
I spend a lot of my time on making sure and making sure that my client understands what it is that they're doing, right?
Right.
And this is kind of like a message to all of the service providers. If you are in the business, the relationship business like we are,
Sure.
that you take the time and like if you're especially like if I'm bringing on a young lawyer, or if I'm bringing on an additional financial planner, like somebody in my firm. You have to get in that person's head. You have to get in that client's. You have to like get in their world and understand. Okay, what it is. And we always talk. We hear all these. All right, what it is. What's your pain point? What's your biggest thing? And then, how many times do you find yourself almost kind of? I get that. However, let me educate you on kind of where are you? And I always use the terms. If I knowing what I know now, if I'm in your shoes, this is what I would do.
Yeah.
And the ability to say that and say that with confidence. And again, with the confidence comes with. Your training, your experience, your kind of your ability of your professionalism, your expertise in understanding what you do. I mean, I think that's a critical part of this. And then applying that to do I want to do a Roth IRA conversion right now? And how like that question might be different for somebody else, or why is it that I need do I really need a revocable trust? And
Right,
you could say,
right.
do I need to pay because it costs money, the services cost money, but do I need that? Why? Or if you have a client, and one of the big things, and we'll kind of go to break, but we'll talk about this when we come back, is like, if someone's like, well, if they've had experience in like a long-term care situation, or where they've had a parent, or somebody who's been in that situation and they've spent all their money, and
Sure.
your client has kind of watched this. I've watched my mother kind of go through all of her money, and it's sad, and then kind of ending up in wherever, but that kind of, and then saying, well, why wouldn't I, as a 52-year-old, why wouldn't I want to buy long-term care insurance?
Yeah.
Or why wouldn't I want to put my house right now into an irrevocable trust? And then you kind of, so it's, and they're real fears, right? They're real fears, they're real concerns. Yes. But then, you as the professional, or you as the expert is going to say, okay, I hear what you're saying, I understand, and but here's kind of let's take a look at it from a different angle. And the reason that you can do that, the reason you can kind of look at it from a different angle, and then still be able to but still understanding like how those people
Sure.
feel. That's the focus of that relationship, and that's the energy I feel like that you and I both need. That you and I do. I think we do a relatively good job.
Yeah, I think you're right.
In
Most
kind
of our
of
clients
understand.
come away from an engagement with us and say that was helpful, it was clear, it was concise, I understood what you're talking about. Other people I've talked to, not so much, right? You guys do a really good job of making it understandable, and that's a big part of it. You got to understand, as a client, you got to understand the whole how the whole thing comes together.
Yeah, and then and take it one step further is you have to understand it, but at the same time, you're probably not going to understand it all.
Nope.
You're going to understand kind of the, kind of part of it or most of it or the over.
That's when you lean on the relationship. And you say, look, I don't have to understand it because you know what? I like talking to John, and when I call him up, he makes it seem sense. It makes sense to me, so I'm good to go, and you kind of work from it from there.
Yeah, and then the importance of kind of making sure that and the things the things that you can do in order to make sure that relationship and that kind of bond between you and your client is sustained.
Got it. All right, let's go to break, and we'll dive into this when we get
All
back.
right, don't go away. We'll be right back on Money Law, My FM 101.3 and the Holliston Hub. Don't go away.
Don't move. And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Mainnet for Financial. Tom is on the bag with us today as we kind of move our way through this topic we were just going through before the break. And hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're taking notes.
I mean, you're obviously enjoying it, and if you're driving, you're not taking notes, so which is important because we don't want any distracted
AI
driving.
note taker on, and then the note taker that takes the notes.
So I have to tell quick driving because we're talking about driving.
Please,
so I have to,
Please,
we got nothing else to do. So as you know, so my wife is from the United Kingdom, so we've been over there. We went over there recently, and so. We rent a car, right? So I got to drive on the left-hand side. And did you drive? Did you do it in Ireland?
No, I did not. I chose smartly.
Yeah. Well, everybody's like, oh my God, I'll never do it. I mean, you obviously could do it. Like,
sure.
You could do it. But it's one of those things, and it kind of reminds me of, or when you think about new drivers, like you think when you're a brand new driver. I mean, I had my license maybe 3 months, and I'm like, I can drive. I'm the best. But you don't have like. You have none of that like muscle memory that like a 30, you'd always like give like, my parents a hard time. My dad would drive, so I'm like, Dad, you driving so? I'm like, but my dad was a way better driver than me.
Of course, yeah.
Just by instinct alone, like he just knows. But
because you're always driving in the same place. So the muscle memory is there. It's built in. I used to drive a 5-speed, and I remember driving around that I knew exactly like where I was going. I knew when I was going to be downshifting.
You knew when I was in third gear?
Yeah, I knew exactly where I needed to be when because you just knew. It was just muscle memory.
Yeah. So driving on the other side of the road, all that goes away. I mean, you still, your gas and brakes.
You're fine on the straightaways. You're good to go.
But even then, it brings you back to like you got to pay attention.
To everything.
You got to be like, and it's funny. So I'm sure that like when the other guys see me coming because I'm driving slower than everybody else, they're like, who is this guy?
They know.
You're not from around here, right?
They know.
And I'm like, I'm locked up, right? I'm like 10-2. I'm like, boo, and especially when you get to like the in the signs, you're trying to read signs, kind of where you're going. And do people lean on the horn a little bit? They do, but it's
is there some gentle encouragement from your fellow drivers?
So the reason I bring this up is because it's the idea of if you're a service provider like we have, and we've been doing it for more than a minute, right? So it's kind of easy for people like it's easy for me to kind of get into that like muscle memory of like, hey Dave, how you doing? Oh yeah, blah blah blah. I know your story. I know you like me. I know you trust me, and you've been a client of mine for 20 years, and it's kind of easy to kind of get into that kind of natural thing where if I'm brand new, if it's a new relationship, you spend more time on it, right? You pay more attention to it. So my challenge, and I was thinking about this, is that maybe it's not a bad idea to kind of pay attention to go back to even though it's kind of muscle memory, to pay attention to like pay a little bit more attention to these relationships and understand, and how do you do that, right? Understanding kind of where people are coming from, understanding kind of, all right, well, we've been doing this a long time. Are we still in the same, are we still worried about the same things?
Sure.
We still have like the same, or, maybe life events have happened. So, I think that's something that really helps to keep those relationships strong and keep them, where they need to be.
Well, I think that's one of the things that when clients are out trying to figure out who they're going to engage with, right? What's you said it a minute ago, right? Joking about the Cape. There's lots of estate planning attorneys on the Cape. There's lots of financial advisors, around doing something similar to what we do, right? So the relationship is critical, right? The relationship is critical. And then you want to understand, like, well, what's the framework of the relationship? Like we highlight for our clients all the time about phone calls. Just call the office. We're not going to bill you for the phone call. You need to set up an appointment with your attorney. Let's get it in the calendar. Let's talk about what's going on. I don't want you home worrying about the cost of the phone call so that you don't call and now we're dealt with a $10,000 problem that could have been solved easily 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing for you, right? John, there's been serious changes in our situation and we think it's going to affect our plan, but we've just been reluctant to call. Like we want to encourage that type of engagement. And you're right, sometimes things can get a little too routinized and need to kind of get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and maybe it's that. And one of the things that I love, and I know that you guys you're very good about it, is you reach out to your clients, like you connect with your clients.
Yeah, we try to. Yeah.
And the ability to kind of, and I think that means something to people. I think that like if they, and it could be an email, right? It could be like, hey, my emails are. It's funny, coming up in the business. You remember coming up in the financial planning business, it's like everything is just so, be careful what you say, you can't,
so regulated.
And Mike D'Anzaris was always, he was like, I never email anybody. I'm just so afraid of of a compliance or a client, maybe they have something documented.
Well, the other thing is we came up in the industry when you didn't have email.
Yeah.
Like the phone, I worked at Fidelity that they were probably, I don't even know, I worked at the World Trade Center. The entire back of the World Trade Center that overlooked Boston Harbor was a phone site.
Phones.
I mean, it was like cubicle after cubicle after cubicle of just phones.
Hardline phones, right?
Just hardline phones.
Wayne Griffin Electric is just like,
headsets,
I'm happy to do it. I'll take care of that for you.
Headsets, and it was like you came in every day and you jumped on the phone, and the minute you put that headset on, the phone opened, and there was a call there. I probably took 175 calls a day.
175 different people that you talked to a day.
That you had, and you had no idea what was coming in. There was no receptionist that said, Jay, I have John Drohan on the phone. He's got a question about the balance in his account.
Yeah.
It was just like coming at you hot, right?
And hey, what do you got?
Every single phone, I must have said my name every single day. Hi, thank you for calling Fidelity. Jay Mouse, blah, 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 blah. Over. Hi, Jay, here's my account number. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. Let's get to the heart of the matter. What's on your mind, right?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, right? And it was trades. It was investment advice. It was guidance. It was product knowledge. Questions about this, questions about that. Solving some service issue. You never knew what was coming. And it was a lot of, but there were no emails. It was all phone-based. Everything was a phone call.
And and that was the thing, is that, kind of the evolution of email, kind of when it happened, it's fantastic because what it does, it enables me to contact you, but I'm not interrupting you.
Correct.
Right? And that was like the whole thing with the phone. Like the phone is like, when you call somebody, if there's a phone call coming in, I'm getting interrupted from what I was doing. And is it a bad thing? No, not always or necessarily, but I'm not thinking about that right now. And then now I got to think about this.
I don't take phone calls. I don't take unsolicited phone calls at the office from anybody.
Yeah.
If you call my office and you're a vendor, I definitely don't talk to you.
Yeah.
And if you call my office, if we try to tell our clients, if you're calling the office, unless it's an emergency, let's get you in the calendar. The calendar could be today. It could be an hour from now.
Yeah.
But it's going to be, let's get you in the calendar so that whatever conversation we're having, we are locked in on it, not trying to multitask and do 10 other things because you caught me at a bad time, right? So that's kind of how we manage it so that the clients understand, okay, I don't want to talk to them, I just got to get on the calendar. Yep. That's the thing, get on the calendar.
Yeah, and the thing about, everybody's got my cell phone, everybody's got my number, and I'll say, look, if you need anything, call me. If I don't answer, then that's because I'm doing something else, and it's not. Don't take it like I'm screening the call and I don't want to talk to you.
Don't be offended. Yep.
Now that I've seen that you call, I will get back to you as soon as I can, and that works. That works in the sense that the client, because there's some people that they'll text you, and texting's kind of a different. That's kind of the evolution too.
Yeah, we don't do a lot. I mean, first of all, we don't do it on the investment side because you can't do it.
No, I don't. Right,
and so we don't do any texting.
But people, they know it's myself, so they'll text me like, "Hey, I have a question about this," and then if I can call them, I won't be like, oh, let me answer your question on text, because I'm not allowed to do that. And I tell people, all right, but oftentimes instead of if they call or if they want to call, but they'll just text and say, hey, can you give me a call, right? And that's fine, right? That's because again, it's one of those things where at least that's how it works with my clients. With my kids, my family, it's different. Like they're like, if I text you, why didn't you text me back? Like,
so you get the hello text.
Yeah.
Hello.
The hello.
Drives
The
me
dot.
insane. I want to
Yeah.
rip the phone across the room. Yeah.
And
So, but from a client perspective, I think clients should ask. Clients should that you want to set the expectations. Clients should understand what's the best way to work with your firm, because you're going to have a different approach. You're going to have something that's built out differently than some other firm, right?
Yeah.
Some firms make it a point to say the phone always gets picked up here, right? We don't, like, nothing goes to voicemail.
Yep.
That's their thing. Other folks are like, you know what? We're totally fine having it go to voicemail. We use voicemail to kind of triage, the phone tree and where people go. That's what they're doing. That's you as a client, you want to understand that, because when you call and say, I expect to talk to somebody, and the answer is, well, we don't do it that way.
Yeah.
That they're doing, and they've built the infrastructure around their service model, so you're going to be upset about that. You're going to be you're going to be
that's
disappointed.
part of that. What we're talking about. That's part of that relationship. That's part of kind of understanding. Okay, here's how it works. Right. Here's how it works with us. So some people somebody how many times have you had where if let's say somebody moves to you from another service provider. Like,
Sure.
I did my legal stuff with this other guy. I want a new lawyer. I wasn't happy with this, right? And then, and I've had this people like, this guy, like, he never calls me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, well, look, here's how it works with us, right? I'm going to call you. I won't call you. I'll email you and I'll say, hey, let's connect on, let's figure out a time to connect. If there's an issue, if there's something that's pressing or, that I need to talk, then I will call you.
Yeah.
And I said, but here's and we'll reach out to you. We'll connect with you 4 to 5 times in a year at a minimum, right? Unless if you want, and then I say, if you want to connect more, absolutely, we'll connect as much and often as you want. Now, you may get tired because I'll tell you the same stories. I mean, I don't, I'm limited in
the jokes are the same.
I was going to say you may hear a couple of the same jokes,
That's right.
which
so
it's
you
not.
want to spread your exposure to John out a little bit because again,
you forget some of the jokes. Yeah,
it gets a little.
Did I ever tell you the one about? Yeah.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
So, but we kind of say, all right, here's how it works, and then if you need me and you want to call.
Yeah.
And like I said, if I don't answer right away, it's because I'm doing something else. But you brought up a good point about how the way it works is, and oftentimes like financial planning questions, no one's going to call and say, hey, how can I retire? That's a big meeting, right? And I would imagine that in the estate planning, in the legal world, particularly in the legal world, the questions that people have are going to require you to maybe do some research, or require, like they say, I don't really understand this about my will, and you may be like, all right, let me get your will, let me review what we did, and
there's a bunch of questions that we can usually answer right off the top, right? Somebody's going to say, I have a question about. We had a phone call the other day. Somebody wanted to know.
Jay, do you like 8 or 9-year-old scotch?
12 or 25. 12 or 25. Macallan 25. Yeah. So they called up and they said, well, we have a question about a simultaneous death situation, right? So they thought somebody had, died together, right? The story that everybody worries about, they were in whatever it was. So, longer conversation, let me ask some questions, let's figure out what's going on. And then we went through the whole exercise and come to find out absolutely not a simultaneous death situation. It was a little bit different. So there's some things that we can answer, but then at the same time, we also have to find out, like, where do they live? How old, what's going on? We have all these other follow-up questions.
Data that you need to gather.
Yeah.
Right?
And then the answer is either, I think I have the answer, or I don't have the answer. But one of the things that our jobs are geared around is issue spotting. It's not having the answer. It's the issue spotting to say, I don't know the answer, but I know we need to find out an answer to this question.
But that comes with the conversation, right?
Correct.
And it comes with a conversation that might be more than just hey, what should I do in this situation? Because there may be more to it, right? They're like, well, wait a minute, you're married? Yeah, well, this is my second marriage, and then they're like, okay, well, let me kind of understand what the framework is, and then I'll be able to, you'll be able to. And like you said, I don't know the answer right now, but give me 24 hours or give me 2 hours, I'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah, I know how to do the research, and I know how to chase down whatever it is I think needs some chasing down here. That's something that we can work on.
Yeah, so I think that there's in this relationship that we're talking about, there's kind of like, people have there's responsibilities to both sides, right?
Yeah.
And as a client, your responsibility, and I'll say this to all our clients, like your responsibility is like, if there's something that you're looking for that we're not doing, please tell me.
Yeah,
like,
please speak up.
Please tell me, okay, this is what I want, right?
Yeah.
This is what I'd rather have this than, whatever, than kind of what's going on. And then if I say, yep, you're right, we if you want to meet, 7 times a year, I can absolutely do that. If that's kind of what you need, and I go, normally we don't do it that much, but if that's going to make you happy, then and again, you're doing this.
Yeah, but but you might say, what, we don't do that.
Yeah, you might say, I can't meet with you. I can't drive, to Hingham, 7 times. I have other people that I have to take care of, and other people I have service. So maybe, if you're kind of, I'm looking for somebody who's going to do that, then maybe then we're not your fit.
And maybe we can help you find somebody.
Yeah.
Like we said to the clients before. I said, look, we had a client meeting this week, and I said, look, there's a bunch of things that you need. We can do some of it. But if for whatever reason you don't hire us, I will help you find these other people either way who don't do what we do, or who do what we don't do, and they can help you out. Let's just get you to the right people. That's a lot of how those conversations can go.
Yeah. So the client kind of telling you and really clarifying what it is that they want to have from the relationship, and then you kind of coming back and saying, all right, here's what I can do, here's what I can't do, and then what usually comes with that is, here's why we do it this way. Sure. Here's why we don't meet 7 times a year, because things don't change. It's not like we're day trading your account. Like your account is in this account, it's in this portfolio. And I'll tell them, look, if something changes, if something crazy happens, that's different. Then it's like, alert, like, doot, doot, the whoopee light starts going off. And we say, hey, listen, everybody, here's some changes, based on, some current events that have happened. Here's some changes, here's some updates that we have. If you want to talk about it, if you want to talk more, then call us up.
If you want that super high touch, that may not be us, right? And if it's not, that's fine. And I'm not being dismissive about it. I would say to the client, I just don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. I just want you to be satisfied with what you do. And for our world, it's a little easier because there are definitely some spaces that we don't play in. As an advisor, as an investment advisor, there's all kinds of things that you might not have in your bag of tricks right this second.
Oh yeah.
But you can easily go out and find, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many things that we offer as kind of a core offering, and this other stuff we have to go find it, right?
Yeah.
Which we can do. But it's going to take some work, and we'll tell a client right up front, this isn't in my wheelhouse. My job is to put you with the person who does do this, right? Yeah. So we have relationships with, like, a lot of the legal work that we do is for your estate plan, and it's in that space of the planning documents, things like that. When it comes to care management, when you say, look, I got to figure out who to bring in as a home health aide.
Yeah, you guys, that's not what you do.
That's what I do. I can identify the issue when somebody says to me, we're having a real problem, take care of my mother at home. Okay, you probably need to bring in some additional resources. I'm not that guy. Yeah. I don't know, but here's who I would put you in touch with.
Yeah.
And then they will say, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how to do trusts, but I know how to help take care of somebody and set up a care plan at home, and I'm doing the same thing. It's a handoff. So you're building your network. They're not referral sources. They're professionals that offer things that you don't offer.
Yeah,
that
you're
help
not.
your clients.
You don't have like a referral agreement with these people that you're. No.
No. Anybody we refer to because we think that they're a good person that's very good at their job,
and they're going to take care of my client.
Exactly. And it's funny. And the financial services folks, I love them to death. And being one of them, we meet with those guys all the time, and we talk about it. And they always say to me, but your firm manages money. Like, what's my value? Why would I even talk to you? Why are we even sitting here together? Right? They're offended, right? And I go, look, I understand your business model. I understand what you're trying to do, and what you're trying to do is provide really good service to your clients.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a very good lawyer who can help out on the elder law estate planning space, and help your clients, then we're those people. Right, we're those people.
Did you say really good lawyer? Then you're referring.
If you're looking for the world's okayest lawyer, I got you. I got your back. We can take care of it.
I just passed that guy.
We could take care of it.
I just passed that guy on the left.
Yeah. But again, there's other lawyers that someone's going to come in and go, look, my clients have super heavy duty tax work. Okay, we don't do super heavy duty tax work. We know our space, we know our lane, we're really good, we stay in it, and we do great work in our lane. But there are other things that we don't do, and we'll tell you, that's outside of what we do. Probate litigation, I'm not fighting over your will. That's an outside, we know it. I can see it coming a mile away.
Yeah.
I'm not your guy. We're going to refer that out. Yep.
And again, this all is part of, this is all like kind of a result or a symptom of the relationship that you have with that client.
Yeah.
And because you and you're, you're, when you get a client, you know what you are? You're their lawyer, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
and now, again, if it's Jesse Pinkman and he says we need a criminal lawyer, no, I mean we need a criminal lawyer.
Criminal
that's
attorney.
That's different. I mean, you are kind of like in the estate planning and elder law. You are the Saul Goodman. Like you're there. Like they're not doing anything until they call you.
Yes.
And you may be like, hey, I don't know how to do that. Or that's not my wheelhouse. Again, I'm not going to court for probate court and
that's right.
and sitting in court with you. I'm not doing that. However, or I'm not defending you when I'm not doing your divorce procedure or any of that stuff. But this is what I do, and because we have this relationship, because I'm your lawyer, because I'm like this person or our firm is the one that you trust, that that I'm going to put you with somebody who I think is good.
But you know what's funny? Like I'm sure you do the same thing because
sure I do.
Well, I'm sure we've talked about this 100 times. There's all kinds of things that you do that I'm sure. But we've made referrals for the craziest reasons, like and to some in the craziest scenarios, right? And I'm a sales guy. I came up as a sales guy. You're a sales guy. Anytime I can help a client out by referring them to somebody who's going to help solve a problem for them,
right,
I'm happy to do it. And it's not always to an organization or an entity that you would think is a normal fit for a lawyer or for an investment guy, right? I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've made referrals for electricians and plumbers and for people to go have dinner.
Yep.
And you
guys, you should talk. You two guys should get together.
You're looking for a place to have lunch? You should definitely talk to these guys. You're looking for a place to pick anything. You're looking for a landscaper? I can give you 9. I can give you 9, but I know one who's at the top of the list because he was just here last week.
He was here last week.
We have a in the office, and we're building out our new one. You mentioned the Cape at the beginning of the show. We have what we call Team 100, right? It's our people that we refer to for any of our clients for any problem that they can imagine, and it's all different categories. It's not just financial people and other lawyers, right? It's other types of lawyers. It's other types of financial people. It's financial people that focus in one particular area. It's dog walkers. It's house sitters. It's because you're going to have a problem, and we've probably talked to somebody who we think might be able to solve your problem. And at the end of the day, that's what you and I do. We solve problems for clients.
Your job, you were put on this earth to make people happy.
Yes.
And if your dog, if you have a late, change in your schedule and you need someone to watch your dog, I can hook you up.
Yeah.
Because and I tell my clients, I'm doing this for selfish reasons. I am doing this for me. Because I want you to like me. I want you to trust me. I want you to care about the relationship that we have as much as I do. That's what I want. Am I going to get paid from the dog walker? No. Am I going to
Do I expect to get paid from the dog walker?
No. And if the
not.
dog walker offers to pay me, I will say no, thank you.
That's
No,
right.
I'm doing this because this is how it works, right? This is kind of how right in the sales, where like when you come up and you're like experiencing like the sales karma, right? And you're like, you know what? I strike out 15 times, but I help these other people out. And it's funny because I have a client, I think this could be in my top 5 largest clients. Came from me, from another financial planning guy 20 years ago who said, we're not really a fit for you. You guys are too small for us. And I was just getting going. And they're like, okay, we'll use you. This guy was working out of his garage and he was he was particularly good at crown molding. And now he owns this, $30 million construction company. And he's my guy, and then for 20 years, I'm like, you came from that other guy. Right? And that's kind of how, and again, because he was like, look, something's going to happen for me down. Maybe we'll stay, but he's like, I just want you to be happy. And that's like the instinctual thing about service people is we want to provide good service.
Well, we've sort of fashioned ourselves as your attorney.
Yeah.
We want that to be the call that you make.
You're
right?
my lawyer.
Hey, you know what you should do? Call the attorney and see.
And it doesn't cost anything to call him.
Call the attorney. And
you
then,
got that, Tom? It doesn't cost anything.
And then you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, you know what? That's not my thing. But you know what? That's an insurance issue. And if I was you, I would talk to these people because that's who we use, right? And as I get older, I find myself using like sort of my own personal story a lot more in client communications or in client meetings. Not because I love talking about my favorite subject, which is myself, but because I feel like, I've said this in probably from most of the presentations I do, I'll say, look, why am I in this space, right? I'm an estate planning attorney because I will go through all the things that my clients will go through, right? I've lost parents, I've lost in-laws, I've done probate, I've transferred property, I've had to deal with all these things that my clients have to deal with, right? And I'm worried about the same things, right? If I show up on the doorstep of a nursing home, how's my wife going to write a $15,000 a month check? What happens if I'm not around? How does everything get to my kids? So when you're doing those things, I find myself saying, look, these are the people that I would use. This is how I would do this. And we've actually, done a presentation or a webinar that says, what does your estate planning attorney's estate plan look like, right?
Yeah.
And I'll pull the curtain back and I'll tell you, like,
there you go.
I have kids, I have trusts, I have ages in there that they don't get stuff until. The girl's probably just finding this out right now if they're listening to the show, right? There's ages in there. They don't get it until certain ages.
Oh no!
Right? And that's done for a reason, right? Because my
50
kids,
is the new 40. It's okay. Yeah.
Because my kids were little once too, just like all of our clients that we do the planning for. And I never worried about it because I knew what would happen. There's a time in my life that I was switching jobs and I was coming out of my time at Fidelity and I was going out on my own. And when I was at Fidelity, you carry all that corporate insurance that you have as an employee, right?
Yeah.
X times your salary. Well, I left and I had to go out on my own. And I didn't, there was a window there where I didn't have like the big life insurance policy that I knew I needed to have, right? And I will tell you, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was worried. I was really worried. I was like, if I kick off before this insurance policy,
you should have been worried.
My wife is going to be.
I mean, you're lucky. I mean, Mike D'Anzaris would have had you.
Oh yeah, he would have had me in a headlock.
Yep. He was like, right, just sign right here.
Sign right here. Yep.
You're going to get extra. You might need whole.
Yep.
You might need whole for this, right? You need some just flat out.
You need an investment feature with it.
You need a whole, right?
All right. Are they waving us down in the operations room here? Are we done, Tommy?
Tom's saying one more minute.
All right.
One more. We could break. All right, let's do a quick break and then we'll come back and wrap it up. We started up a little late.
I know. I know. Well, he was late.
It's on and on. I'm sorry. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back. We'll do a quick wrap up. We're talking about, when we talk about this touchy feel,
we get going.
We get going. All right, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
And we're back. My FM 101.3. Jay Marsden with the Marsden Law Group. John Drohan, Main Effort Financial. Tom's on the bag with us here as we make our way around the back nine. We're on the 18th hole here. We're getting ready to close it out. We're just talking about kind of like loosey-goosey, understand the parameters of your relationship with the advisors and the people you work with. Kind of know the depth of what is available to you as a client because they, in many cases, may offer a lot more than you're probably aware of.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunity. Again, John and I are in constant networking mode. We're always meeting people. We're always meeting people that can help people. And for those people who we have already connected with on the professional side, look, I might not have 100 people to refer to you, but when the need arises, you'll be our person.
Yeah.
You'll be our person.
So we talked about like the client, like their responsibility, like you as a client, your responsibility is kind of what the expectations are and understanding like what we can and can't do. And then understanding that, what we can't do, we may be able to help you or at least give you some guidance or at least
point you in a direction.
Or at least say, this is what I did when I was in that situation, right? So then from the client perspective, what you should expect from any kind of a service prep, particularly someone who's, if it's your estate planning attorney, who's like going to kind of know everything about your family, know everything about kind of your situation, or your financial or your retirement plan, or anybody who's kind of in that space, is you need to expect them that they are going to understand your picture enough to where, and again, we said this earlier in the show, where if they're in your position, like what would, how many times have a client said, what would you do
Exactly.
if you were me?
Yep.
What would you do? All right, here, I just told you the story about my mother. What would you do if you were me?
Sure.
And so it's my responsibility to understand that. It's my responsibility to ask enough questions or to get enough information or to kind of to hear what you're saying and hear what you're not saying, to be able to say, okay, if I were you, this is absolutely what I would do, without question, and then even talk about, there's risks involved. There's if I did do this, I understand that there's a potential that this could go sideways on me, and then I'd have to react and I'd have to adjust to that.
And that's what we do for clients, right? We play out all the scenarios. We kind of run the A plan, the B plan, the C plan, and say, well, you could pay privately. We use a nursing home example. You could pay privately for a couple of months, and at some point we can shift gears. We can restructure all your assets right now to try to get you eligible for Medicaid right from Jump Street. Here's the cons of doing that, right? Or we wait, and here's the pro to waiting, and here's the con to waiting. We kind of lay it all out that way because we don't know what's going to happen.
And then the next question is, what would you do?
Yep.
Right? Because how many times they're like, all right, that's a ton of information. You know kind of where I'm at. You know how much money I have. You know how much money I don't have. You know
Sure.
kind of where I'm at. You're like, what would you do? And that's a big question because then if that relationship is real, like you're talking about, like there's that real trust. You're going to say, if I were you, I would do this.
Well, if I were you, I would do this, and then I would wrap the same caveats around it that I would wrap for anybody and say, if where you're at right now, this is probably the best course of action.
Yeah.
With the understanding that I don't know, we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what we don't know.
Yeah.
Right?
If you wait, but then you kind of play, like you said, you have like kind of your different scenarios, like A, B, and C, your different courses of action, and you say, well, if we choose course of action A, and the course of action A is we're going to wait. We're going to wait to do any estate planning, or we're going to wait to do any Medicaid planning. Then here's what could happen. What could happen is, like, if we wait, and there's always the chance, but right now, you both seem relatively
there's
healthy.
some probabilities built in there, and if there's some unforeseen thing hanging out there, it's truly unforeseen. There's nothing we can do.
And if we don't do that, if we start Medicaid planning right now, and we put you're 55 years old, and we put your house into an irrevocable trust, and then 10 years or 5 years from now, your kids move to California, and you want to move, then guess what? We have to blow that trust up.
Right.
Like then all of that legal.
If you think you're taking that money and you think you're going to do something with it, like you're making yourself very illiquid. Do you understand that?
Oh, and here's what illiquidity does for a 60-year-old, right? Because right now you're 55. In 5 years, you're not going to feel much older unless you get really sick.
Yep.
And we're, hopefully you're not going to get sick.
Yeah.
So you're going to feel like, wow, I'm 60. I'm not. I don't. 2019 or 2020 doesn't seem that long ago.
Yeah.
So why is it different now? Why am I gonna? Do I want to not have access to like all of my money? Do I not want to have the ability to, if I want to make if I want to move, if I want to take money, if I want to pay for my kid's wedding?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't because you put all that money into you can, but then your irrevocable trust goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of that stuff is then there's no Medicaid planning.
All for naught.
It's all for nothing.
Yep, that's right. All for naught.
For our responsibility is to establish that relationship and know you well enough, know your situation well enough to be able to say, here is what I would do. Here is what I would do were I you, knowing what I know.
Yeah.
And also knowing the risks and the potentiality of how things could change or go one way versus another.
Well, and that's where kind of having that relationship and understanding the depth of that relationship to say, you know what. Yes, this makes perfect sense. We can absolutely do that.
Yeah,
we can get that taken care of.
and again, because like you said, we're solving a problem. The problem is you want to make sure that your estate goes the way in your mind the way you want it to go.
Yeah.
So here's the solution. Here's what we think right now is the best solution for said problem. And again, anything can happen. Like anything can happen.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know.
Yeah, there could be the hurricane could come and the levees could break. Who knows?
Yep.
But if it does, then and there's always that. If it does, there are ways to kind of there's things we can do. We can deal with it.
Yeah, we'll deal with it.
All right, we have to wrap this up.
We do got to wrap it up.
All right,
so
so
we're getting flag down here. All right.
Tom,
Always a
All
pleasure,
right,
buddy.
well, no, but I just want to because that's the thing. Like last week, right? Last week when we had JJ on or R&R on, right? So when we had we got like the kind of the blessing from Tom. So I just want to know, what do you think? Like not bad today, right?
Yeah, great.
See, that's all we need,
that's
right?
all-
That's all I need.
that makes
it gets
my
me
day.
through the
That makes my
weekend.
day.
All
That
right,
makes
all right.
my
We'll
day.
see. All right, because Tom said it was good. Jay
We're good.
and I, of course, always say it's
We
good.
always say it's
That's the
great.
greatest thing ever.
We always say it's great.
This is Radio Gold. All right, we'll see everybody next time on Money in the Law, My FM 101.3, the Holliston Hub. He's Jay Marsden. He's
got
from the
it.
Marsden Law Group. 2 locations, one up here in Holliston, one down in Cape Cod. And John Doyle Main Effort Financial. We'll see everybody next time.
Have a great week.